Show up, turn it in, and turn it up. If you remember anything I say throughout this school year, please do not forget this advice. Show up, turn it in, and turn it up. As we formally recognize the beginning of Millbrook's 89th school year, we explore, examine, and celebrate integrity, the most complex of our community values. In its simplest form, it is a noble cliche. Be true to yourself, be on the outside who you are on the inside. Integrity is the opposite of hypocrisy, a synonym of honesty. In To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus Finch says, "Before I can live with other folks, I've got to live with myself." The one thing that doesn't abide by the majority rule is a person's conscience. Now, despite my family's obvious affection for the character of Atticus, I have to wonder, what if hypocrisy does define a person's conscience? That is, cannot something evil, perhaps the devil himself, have integrity? Consider Hitler. He wasn't trying to fool anybody about who he was and what he was trying to do. From all I can tell, he was the same on the outside as he was on the inside. So if he can have integrity, then integrity is not bound to morality. And if integrity is not bound to morality, then why do we value it? I believe we value integrity because we are acknowledging one of the great privileges we have at Millbrook. Here we are given time and space and guidance to find ourselves. Integrity here means the search for understanding better, maybe a little, maybe a lot, of who you are. It means that you have an opportunity to explore and create and ultimately shape your identity. Who are you? Who do you want to become? And what a luxury it is to ask those questions. When I was a student here, the Dean of Faculty, Rita McBride, said that the physical separation from your parents that happens in a boarding school is an opportunity. Because with the physical distance, you are now free to think intellectually, morally, and spiritually on your own. In the same year, a young Mr. Casertano said, "Never again in your life will so many people be dedicated to helping you succeed." And the juxtaposition of those two statements illustrates exactly how the exploration of integrity comes alive. The only way to have integrity in high school is to commit for the search for who you are, to be open to possibilities that are right in front of your face and those that may be invisible. And the best way to explore, the best way, is to show up to everything. Marsh mucking, dishwashing, dorm duties, community service, practice, rehearsal, assembly, class. You show up. And when you do what's asked of you. You turn it in. You turn in everything you are assigned. You do the reading. You are ready. And when you're ready, you turn it up. You jump into the marsh with gusto. You write the fifth draft. You always push to be your best. Resist the temptation of the snooze button, whether that is literal or metaphorical. You show up, you turn it in, and you turn it up. This summer, our faculty read Born a Crime, a book that many of you have read or will read by Trevor Noah. In it, Trevor Noah says, "I was everywhere with everybody, and at the same time, I was all by myself." And this feeling resonates with me, and I bet with many of you. I have spent a lot of my life wondering if I belong. I bet you do too. Maybe even right now in this first week of school. I felt that way here as a student, in college, in graduate schools, and in every job I've ever had. While I cannot speak for the rest of the world, I believe, at the very least, you all fit in here. You belong at Millbrook. Trevor Noah also said in his book, "The greatest gift in life is to be chosen." And all of you have, in some way, shape, or form, been chosen to be a part of this team, this community, and this school. We have become fond of asking, what makes Millbrook Millbrook? And there's a simple answer. You do. Over the past 10 years, I have served witness to thousands of students who so badly wished they could be a Millbrook student, but couldn't, because they couldn't get in, they couldn't afford it, they couldn't convince their parents to let them go, among many other reasons. You are here, and you are chosen, and even if you do not know what that it is in you yet, I'm telling you, there are answers here. So you got to go get it. In an attempt to model one's search for identity, I'd like to share a little bit of my story with you. Before I came to Millbrook in 1994, I was a middle child of 5 boys in a middle-class family in central New York. I never thought about my identity, ever. I just thought my life was normal, or weird, or inconsequential. Who cares? It is not until we burst our own bubbles that we begin to realize how unique we are. When I was granted the gift of coming to Millbrook, I began to ask myself questions in the context of the world, not just my family's dinner table or neighborhood. And today I want to reflect upon 3 lenses of identity that one might examine while thinking about an individual's place in a diverse world: socioeconomics, race and ethnicity, and religion. Socioeconomics. My mother grew up her entire childhood on welfare and government cheese. My dad was the son of a doctor and a teacher, upper middle class. I went to an inner city school where 80% of the students had reduced or free lunches. That school has since closed down because it was among the worst performing schools in the state of New York. There, as a middle class kid, I was among the richest in my school. My parents were not rich, but relative to my classmates, we were, and I would hide it because I thought I'd be teased of it. Despite the fact that my parents worked hard for every penny they earned and lost, I felt the need to be secretive. I felt shame because of my advantage. Never wear anything that's too nice. Get picked up where our Ford Taurus wouldn't be seen. Most people didn't have a car there. The fact that I felt shame is a shame in itself. And let me pause right here. Don't ever feel shame for what you have. And don't feel shame for what you don't have. When I came to Millbrook, I was among the poorest in the school. If I had $10 a week for the snack bar, that was it. There's no credit card or asking for more. I worked every summer and every break, and vacation was a vocabulary word that my family never used. And while I experienced these relative realities of socioeconomics as a child, I never thought about it at all. For me, in a world without cell phones or internet, what was out of sight was out of mind. Now, in retrospect, I've come to deeply appreciate how much Millbrook attempted and continues to attempt to make one's experience while here feel level. Level for every child in the room because we all live in the same dorms and eat the same chicken patties and share the same bathrooms and squeeze into the same pews no matter what we have or do not have. Here, we gain currency by the work we do and the character we exhibit. There is a purposeful leveling in this rural boarding school a Millbrook meritocracy of sorts. Religion. I am the product of Catholicism, Judaism, Mormonism, and Native American spirituality. My dad is Jewish and Catholic. The symbol on my grandparents' gravestone is a Star of David embedded in a Celtic cross. Yet, my mom is baptized Mormon. I spent several summers at the Hilcomer pageant, which is the Latter-day Saints reenactment of Joseph Smith discovering the golden plates. And while my mom found solace in Mormonism, I have no doubt she feels more spiritually connected to, and thus identifies with, the teachings of the Iroquois Nation. The Onondaga Reservation is 5 miles from my childhood home, and for reasons for which I am proud and other reasons that make me roll my eyes at times, my mother graduates towards the spiritual wisdom of the Iroquois. And when I examine it now, the exposure I had to multiple faiths as a child made me spiritual without being dogmatic or righteous. I love that we have students from so many faiths and practices and religions here. Yet I will admit that my personal puree of spiritual exposure often leaves me in want of more conviction at times. I am curious and inspired by the faith and sense of belief that many of you possess. Race and ethnicity. Embedded within that Star of David and Celtic cross on my grandparents' gravestone is a shamrock. There is a lot of Irish on that side. My mom's family is far more complex. I have white, black, Native American, and Latino first cousins. My mother's father, my grandfather, was biracial, half white, half black. My mom hasn't ever met him. And my mom's mom, my Grandma June, was an orphan, in and out of orphanages and foster care until she was 16. Before I came to Millbrook in 1994, I was a white minority in a predominantly black and Latino inner-city school, Shea Middle School in Syracuse. My 6th, 7th, and 8th grade experience was 14% white. That was my daily life. By all measures, I am white, and I am often aware, and at times probably unaware, of the benefits I receive from the societal and systemic privileges of being white in America. But I must say, I often feel like there are these unexposed chapters of my family and my genetics and my past that how I might look does not begin to illustrate who I am and the experiences I had. So I try, yet regularly fail, never to make assumptions about anyone because I see a lot of life through my mother's eyes. Her life for me has shed light upon those who are adopted, abandoned, orphaned, lost a parent, or those who cannot trace genetics or don't simply fit into a categorical box. I think about you, and there are many of you here. I think about you all the time. You know well that the very notion of considering one's identity is a privilege in itself. So I repeat Trevor Noah. I was everywhere with everybody, and at the same time, I was all by myself. In a community as inspiring and inclusive as Millbrook, I hope we feel encouraged enough to share our cultural, familial, racial, and ethnic connections and differences. Of course, there is a lot more to each and every one of us, but I selected those lenses because they are difficult for people to discuss. It is our differences, as we look hard into the mirror that Millbrook provides, which may be the thing that ultimately unites us and makes this experience and our journeys beyond this place all the more beautiful. So why do I share this part of my background with you, I want you all to talk, to explore and share your stories, so we can keep learning from one another, so we can develop empathy for one another, as we create a community defined by love and understanding. That is what I hear when I hear respect, integrity, service, stewardship, curiosity. Some of you, like me, at 14 or 15 or 16, think that there is simply nothing special about you. And I know there is. As I know most of you, I've interviewed a lot of you, and if at the very least I've read most of your files. Here at Millbrook is where you are going to begin to figure this special it out. Just give it time. I love to learn, and I love schools, especially this school. Millbrook was my springboard from one of the worst performing schools in the state of New York to some of the finest education that the world has to offer. And I want you to see Millbrook for what it can be for you, an opportunity that is afforded to very few people on this planet. You have an intentional, challenging, and safe opportunity here to explore, discover, and create yourself. Reverend Hardy says you are on the edge of possibility, so own that. Embrace your search for self in this place, especially in moments of discomfort. Learn to accept what you cannot change, and learn to love and cherish what you can change. Author your identity here. If you show up, turn it in, and turn it up, that is, if you give yourself fully to this place will give you fully back to you. And then you will understand precisely why we value integrity. I am honored and thrilled to make the most of this school year, so let's go get it. Thank you.